to the Verdi Music Hall in Berlin, host of the group stage. Worlds is a tournament where you have to conquer your demons, and today, Reckless and Fnatic go up against their arch nemesis Uzi and Royal Never Give Up. What a way to start the day as the teams are arriving in the Verdi Music Hall. I'm Shox, excited to jump into day 4 alongside Kobe, Spawn, and Papa, or Papa Smithy. What do you prefer?
Whatever works, Shox, whatever works.
Big Papa?
Sure.
Okay, let's go with that then for now. No?
I like Big Papa.
Okay.
Thanks, Kobe.
Well, I might not do that. But anyway, we are 4 days into the group stage, so I think it is time that we have a bit of a bigger discussion about what we've seen so far and the trends that are starting to emerge. Sure. With that in mind, let's take a look at the standings. The only group that's already completed their first round robin is Group D, which has TL, IG, and Damwon all tied at 2 and 1. Quite the group of death, although unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming into this tournament, this was a group that everyone was looking for. Looks like 3 teams deserve to get out and only 2 will be able to. However, AHQ have such a good ability to upset in this group. We've already seen competitive matches from this team, and I'm excited to see whether they have any other surprises to be able to generate that.
And not often does it actually go as rock, paper, scissors as it's played out here. Usually there's a front runner and someone who needs to catch up, and that we focus on them in the second week. Instead, we've had everyone taking wins off everyone, and unfortunately AHQ now being separated, so a lot can still happen in week 2.
And AHQ were actually very close to taking a game off of Team Liquid yesterday, which might make people a little bit more worried for Team Liquid. I would have to say, though, that was probably Jensen's worst game of the entire year. There have been some things that you've come to rely on from this new Team Liquid. Impact is a monster in the top lane. That is something that has not really been attributed to them before, but he has proven himself over and over.
What you're saying is that you still have the faith that they are going to make it out. I know, of course, you're from the region, but do you feel they're undervalued?
I mean, I feel like coming into it, a lot of people did, but having seen them perform once again, it seems like some of the worries have been, smoothed away.
So they're getting out?
Yes.
Yes. Then the LCK representative, although you're also kind of half NA.
Yeah, I've kind of been an anti-LCK, it feels like, on this particular desk when it comes to predictions. I think the win over IG for Damwon was a big one, because I actually, for a lot of the preparation, thought maybe Damwon would fall out, and then it would be TL pushing through. It really does depend on how the meta goes right now. We have the scaling meta going on. If it stays there, TL's in their home, and I think they go through. There is a chance that if we ramp up in aggression, maybe TL bottom out, and Damwon Gaming, again, fresh off that big victory, do make it out.
Yeah, I think that IG will get out, TL will get out, and then unfortunately Damwon and AHQ won't be able to.
Oh, we'll check in with that at the end of the group stage. But over in Group D, we've got some big ticket matchups in what I'm going to dub a bit the group of mess. It's kind of a mess. FPX was in there. Big favorites. Now we're all hot and cold.
Where's Raz at? Raz said this was going to be simple.
Yeah.
What happened to the freest group of all time? Right now, everyone's just beating everyone in this, and even underdog Splice, who took all 5 games to make it into World's main stage, were able to have a great performance yesterday, and this group just looks honestly really all over the place.
I mean, it went being a free group for FPX to being a free-for-all group, Spawn.
It almost feels like I'm willing to say that FPX is by far the worst performing team in this group, even though they went 1-1. This has nothing to do with what the team was before Worlds, but they lost a game, and then they played a second game where they were losing until they got the biggest freebie handout ever. So what are you seeing there, Spawn, if you don't agree?
I mean, I'm looking at it and I see Doingby on his rise, taking over a game with the shot calling ability to be able to drag them back from the brink. We knew it was a young lineup. They said that they were going to have nerves. I think they've now got through a couple of games and will continue to ramp up.
Would you at least agree that LWX was the hardest int that we have seen?
No, actually, I would say Jensen was the hardest.
Oh, we're getting personal
Those
here.
are far more force errors. LWX was of his own accord.
Yeah, potentially, but I also do think people underestimate how much of this team is Doingby say, everyone else do. And I think a lot of these decisions are like, we're going to set up this particular form of team fight. And as we showed yesterday, that had worked historically so well for this FunPlus lineup. And there are clips where LWX is getting quadra kills versus Uzi, my friend.
Shox, have you got the boxing gloves under there?
Yeah, I'm going to cap it here, but I'm loving it. Keep it going. Namely, in terms of the favorites talk. We had a lot lot of pre-tournament favorites. FPX was definitely in that conversation as well. Is it safe to say it is SKT and G2 so far that only deserve that moniker? Papa?
I think definitely, SKT above expectation at the start because they haven't needed to warm up, and G2, the style was surprising on day one, but the results certainly not.
I would say because G2's won in two different, very different ways, I actually have them now as like pretty clear favorites. I think that SKT has been pushed much harder.
Yeah, exactly. I think SKT has had a harder opponent in RNG.
Yeah, when you look at possible growth, of course, and you know that SKT is already that strong in the beginning, it thinks that they may, I think rather that they will make a very deep
But
run.
let's think about how bad Wonder and Yankos played yesterday, and they picked up a 26-minute win, so that's pretty impressive.
Jat said that he could jungle for G2 and they would still win. It kind of now looks
I
like
believe that was a point in Jat's corner yesterday.
Yeah, we'll see how that evolves. We do have some games that can turn the groups upside down today, Kobe. A lot of them are very important for the eventual possible ties as well.
Exactly. I'm so excited for today because so many teams that are 1-1 in their group are going up against each other. And these are teams that were kind of power leveled very similar coming into the tournament. RNG versus Fnatic tiebreaker, Cloud9 versus Griffin tiebreaker, and all of Group B.
And being flanked by the Freedom region right here on the desk, you know, with Papa and Kobe.
Yeah.
I look at this and I just say, this is a really tough day for North America. I mean, looking at Clutch as a opponents, as well as the fact that Cloud9 are going up to Griffin, who did have a resurgence, this is going to be a hard day.
But the undercurrent of C9 Griffin with all the stories around Griffin today, it's so threatening to simmer over. If Cloud9 are going to beat Griffin, I thought that would be unconscionable maybe a month ago. Today feels like the day.
So you calling it?
I mean, I'm thinking it. That's for
You
sure.
voted against Korea in literally every game so far, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Well,
we'll see later on. I do want to have a bit of a check-in as to how the meta is evolving. And two teams that went all in yesterday were HQ and the GAM Esports, who, much like the Joker, thrive in the element of chaos. And Spawn, you were pretty adamant to talk about the fact that this chaos style, or whatever we want to dub it, is good for beating teams that might be better than you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if the meta continues to slow down, if we're going to see such a high presence of bans against Pantheon and Qiyana, the two best early game champions in my opinion, then this style of all-out aggression, engaging, taking every team fight, and putting the game into an area where you have to make such hard choices of when you fight or not as a scaling team, can create these upsets and generate big snowball advantages.
This is something that we saw very similar in North America when Clutch Gaming made their rise from 7th place up here to be a Worlds participant. It was with so much focus on these dive-heavy champions, AoE for the team fights, the Qiyana, the Rumble, all these things layering together and going right at the enemy team, trying to force over and over and over.
And I love teams that have a very easy to execute philosophy, even if the practice is a little bit harder. You know, just go for the backline, dive in, use the ultimates in a layered fashion, and see if you can pick up the surprise win. You only need 2 or 3 team fights in a game to be able to run away with a Baron and a victory.
Do you think if teams that run this composition, does that then mean that other things fall to the wayside, map control, vision control, and all that? And is that then not an inherent new risk?
It lets you cheat a bit, right? Nocturne with the ability to use a global and close distance, these level 6 comps, I agree with you on that, and that's why we're framing it especially as kind of picking out victories. That doesn't mean that great teams employing these strategies won't get great results as well. And if you're playing slow games like G2 showed against Griffin, getting caught out while you're scaling is a real possibility.
And vision control is a very blanket term for a very nuanced thing in our game, right? Different compositions need vision in different areas. These sorts of team comps still do need vision, but it's mostly just around the objective that they're starting so they can then hard engage.
Or maybe vision denial. What was so impressive about that composition was the Qiyana being able to find flanks and things like the Dust Blade this way, but just make that so much easier in the current meta.
It's definitely also very entertaining to watch, as was C9G2 yesterday, a game that had its fair share of chaos, and that's why we also have him in this week's Mic Check, which features that epic clash between G2 Esports and Cloud9.
My communication is never so thin anyway, so I'm like,
you have to stop cosplaying.
Okay guys, I'm gonna give you a tip. Just mute the enemy team from the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I will.
You really think they're gonna type?
Is it BM if I say like, wait what? Where is Svenskeren? Like, is it mental edge or no?
It's meant to edge. It's meant to edge. Where is Svenskeren?
Yeah. Because then you get unfocused and then you have to mute.
I'm coming for you, Licorice.
All perks is coming down for Eric. He's trying so hard, there's a smile action.
I think when he goes for this
Fighting's
one,
up, fighting's up.
Okay.
I don't know where anyone is.
He's dead if no one's here.
I don't think Kiana's there. I don't think Kiana's
Okay,
there.
I'm chasing.
Yeah. He flashed, I'm coming top. But I'm kind of low.
Yeah. I'm dead. They flash the con and I.
Kiana's top.
Nice,
Flash
nice.
at top.
Nice, nice.
Okay,
I'm coming. He flashed.
Actually, I think
He misses all. He misses all.
Yeah, I'm coming.
He's dead. Die.
Nice,
Yeah.
Eric.
Nice.
Holy, you're smurfing.
He's dead. He's dead. Oh,
I'm
blind.
fine,
Yo, look at
fine.
blood. Look at blood.
No,
Yeah, I'm coming.
he has pull. He has pull.
Kill the tower. Kill the tower.
It's gonna be.
I'm just
well,
dying.
yeah.
I'm going. Take it, take it.
Okay.
Zoe's here. Zoe's
Zoe's
here.
there. Zoe the flash, guys.
Yeah, I could kill all of them.
You should just die. I missed. Nice, guys.
Sure.
Well,
Camp, well, maybe we just stand still. I don't know
we
if
are
can do
kind of
this.
running it.
Okay, I think we are. And I think let's just play with Zyra Khan and let them carry.
Cash is one HP. Cash
Okay, let's go. Let's walk up. Let's walk up.
Yeah.
There's no ult.
You have
Cash is
flash,
ult.
you have
There's
flash.
ult. There's no ult. There's no ult.
Look, Tristana here.
Cash is
I'm
dead.
on Nautilus.
Oh, you guys won.
I can look for you.
Just go bot.
I flank. I'm so much. Nice, sir.
Wait,
just
you're
on
on
the
the
side.
way though.
Getting the wave. I'm not sure about this one, guys.
Honestly. Oh, he's dead.
I'm sure about this.
Oh.
Okay, I'm coming.
I'm kind of out.
Look.
Is that?
We win
Still not
this.
too bad.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's
It's a bit hard to go in.
I can-
Oh, look, so they're both. She can't go.
Okay, this guy.
no ult.
Sorry.
Zoe's 1 HP.
Okay.
I need peel, guys. I need peel here.
Yeah.
Peeling.
Healer.
Okay, so you get
I'm level 2 out now, too.
I am ready. I am ready.
Okay, I'm going.
Okay.
It's a miss. It's a death.
It's an 8. Where's Aatrox?
Going for Aatrox.
He's hiding. You cannot hide from me. I will fight you and I will flash taunt you.
Well, that was a good game, guys. I just wanted to prove a point. That bot lane is so fucking
Better bot lane always wins.
Possibly two of the most entertaining teams to hear talk on
Yeah.
comms as well.
That was awesome. honestly.
Blabber talks so much. Maybe Blabber, maybe that's where it comes from. Maybe that's because he's so active.
It's a good trait for a jungler.
Where does the fish part come from?
It's not in there. It's just called Blabber. I know what you're talking about. No, I liked it in terms of the fact also to see that both teams were kind of keeping a cool head and having a bit of fun with it. I think you have to do that in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams are known for having really good team atmospheres.
Yeah.
And both of them have been very flexible in adapting to different strategies.
The power of friendship, and also despite Cloud9's rather loss, Licorice was an absolute monster on Aatrox, and the top laner is also on our list of players to watch. I've come to rely on Licorice a lot to show up at these tournaments for Cloud9.
I think North America does as a top laner next to the recent reblossoming of Impact. And actually, if you loop Impact in there, we're debuting NA Aatrox on the world stage and showing off that can be a big pick. Put the chase away, the Aatrox is here. Some really dominant displays, and Licorice definitely was doing everything he could to get at least one half of the map a big advantage yesterday.
First in forward percentage, that
means he's
indicates the
styling,
entire
right?
group stage. He is styling with those picks.
And it's not just his lane stats. He does so much for the team when they need these big team fights in the mid game, finding flanks and finding those engagements for the rest of the crew.
Fantastic job by him. Another player I want to talk about from the same game is Perkz. 80 carry since almost a year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really nice to just think about the fact that Perkz last Worlds was performing as a mid laner, now as an AD carry, and going into MSI, the big question about G2 was how is their bottom lane going to stand up on the international stage? Well, I think that all critics have certainly been silenced because their bottom lane looks dominant, and Perkz, he's not beaten down by the old AD carry meta. He doesn't need 3 or 4 items. He's just a powerhouse from literally level 1 in the lane.
And he has been an absolute monster. It's ridiculous to me that he has found this much success so quickly in the new role. You watch him on Xayah, his flashes to get the correct blade caller are just on point.
Fantastic, and it sucks to be Mickey in that situation because he flies under the radar when he's such an important part of that G2 bot lane as well. Well, there's only 2 people, so if
He's just the fact that he's so elegant, even on AD carry, was a wonderful mid laner. But the fact that he's getting the same sort of vibes as an AD carry as well, just a complete package.
Fantastic job from Perkz, Mickey, and the entirety of G2 so far as well from SKT. Faker is back at Worlds, and he has made a statement so far, although I think not everyone agrees on this topic.
I certainly think that Faker is outstanding. He has performed so well already here, and he's found his soulmate, Clid, in the jungle, bringing that power. You know, every mid laner we've always talked about, oh yeah, but only if he could find the correct jungler here to help him out early game, and it really has come true for this duo. They've been on point.
And it felt like a long time ago Faker was one of the what about me class of mid laners who really needed all of the resources his way, or you weren't going to get the same results out of him. Bengi and other junglers rolled through. The fact that he's reinvented himself like he has at this tournament and is really willing to dodge out a lane if he needs to, maybe taking a follow from Caps and how he was playing back at MSI, he really is on point.
We already got to listen in to the comms where Faker on the Twisted Fate game calling for the back door to finish the game. It just helps out so much when the pressure is this high on the world stage to have someone like that.
He's superhuman and absolutely no discussion, been playing out of his mind. Someone we haven't mentioned as much because in that team the attention usually goes to someone else is Karsa for RNG. You've been inspired by how he's been playing.
Yeah, I really have. And I think a lot of people have underrated him, but if you pay attention to RNG, he is so important to this team, and he has been a top jungler in the world for so long.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the underratedness, right? This is a guy on Flash Wolves that was once again the Korean killer when they were showing up at international events. He's now the last couple of years been there for RNG. And how many teams do you have to be a top jungler on? How many titles, how many upsets do you have to be able to generate before you're actually just get acknowledged as maybe a top 5 jungler in the world? And Clid versus Karsa was honestly a masterclass in jungling yesterday.
It almost feels like it's unfortunate that he's been fairly rated in his corner of the world for a long time, but between the LMS and the LPL, he never got his due on the international stage. Feels like we said that 4 tournaments in a row. Just deserves some more due, apparently.
Yeah, more than top 5. Let's bump him up even more.
Oh, where are we going? 3? 2?
3.
Oh, 3, baby.
Okay,
Yeah.
high praise. We'll see how he does in game 1. Rather, there he is, Karsa. Now, one of the most iconic things about League of Legends are the tense standoffs at major objectives, and none more revitalizing or devastating than Baron steals. Here's to 10 years of that purple snake buff.
Game. We do see X-Special and Wild Turtle just down the bottom. The odd one is close by, but I'm not sure he's got enough. He's going to have to go so deep to try and land this one. He wants to get the smite down. He can get it! He gets the smite down for TSM. Well, it was a sacrifice, but it was worth it. Is he going to go their way? That's the question. Willerford's coming. Watches there. Can he get the smite? Just get that white in the game.
This is surprising.
It is surprising if they keep it away from Origin. They're going to try to get it. Can Amazing steal it? He's going to get it. Amazing! It's a Dragon. And then it's Dragon number 5 for Origin.
Paranoia, but Gorilla's going to get dropped. He's already dead. Look at the slicing Maelstrom. G2 are locked up, but Smith is down. Kuro gets rooted in place, and it's a double kill for Perkz. Prey is caught by an Aqua Prison. He manages to back away safely. G2 turns towards Baron.
And that is how the user making goal. They group up, they dare the Rocks target to come towards them, and they peel completely as a unit. Now it's on Peanut to try and steal. His ultimate is up in about 10 seconds. Yeah, I think he's going to look for it. They don't want to pull this one away. Bray's going in. Billy trying for the steal.
Peanut's going low on the Drake.
So low.
He got the Drake stuff. Peanut's going for the 50-50. G2 on the right. The Rocks target. Get the Baron.
Back out there, know that it's none of around the Baron. They have the damage to get it done.
Are you kidding me? It's a counter kill. How can you not do that?
Saw some additional burst. Keep your eyes on Reckless on the flank. 5 members of RNG in the pit. And the next G takes it down. And Fnatic.
They have very good Baron damage and very good Baron turn. This should definitely be theirs. Only the Suns and now the Ornn could contest.
Teleport is being used. What are Cloud9 going to do about it? Jensen can go in and stealth ult to buy time, but it would be almost the last case.
They're going to try. They're going to dive into the pit. Plenty of damage available. But will they even stop the Baron as the smite? Oh, he gets the kill on the juggler. Who's going to get it? You gotta be kidding me. Licorice solo carrying this game. There's still 2 kills for Afrika. But can you believe that Baron steal? This Worlds has been full of incredible moments.
I may be coming to North America next year, but that last clip, Kobe, it's still too damn soon.
It's like an injection of adrenaline just seeing all those plays.
Honestly, there's nothing more adrenaline-inducing in our game than these late-game Baron fights.
I remember the Karma steal with the IQ. I got tackled as a caster throughout the clip where that happened.
That's impossible! No, it's not.
It was, there was also a couple of this year's at Worlds. There was an unfortunate Clutch Gaming one as well versus Mammoth.
There have been a lot already.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off because we need to continue and talk a bit about Fnatic and RNG in a second. But first, Riot will be celebrating 10 years of League of Legends later tonight. To join in on the festivities, check out celebrate.leagueoflegends.com. 10 years already, so many Baron steals, and hopefully another great game to add to that catalog after this one, Fnatic versus RNG. And ahead of that game, Laure got up with Fnatic's bot laner.
Thanks, guys. As we're about to dive into the last day of round one, I wanted to have a little chat with you, Reckless, because I saw you walk off the stage last time looking really upset. So were you mad about your own performance or the general performance from Fnatic that day?
Probably both. I think so far I haven't been playing that well, and we haven't been playing that well as a team either. So in my mind, if we keep on doing like this, then we won't get where we want to be, which is to win Worlds. So we really have to step it up now that we have 4 games left, because we either have to take down RNG or SKT. And by the looks of it, RNG is the weaker one, judging from their game yesterday, or day before yesterday. So we really need to make sure that we step it up now for these 4 games so we can actually make it out. Because if you look at the rest of the competition, other than G2, there's not really that many scary teams. So I feel like if we can make it to the quarterfinals somehow, then we can actually probably go the entire way.
I agree with you on the SKT and RNG statement, especially because even though RNG looks strong, they look more predictable. But we know that Uzi has always been your kryptonite.
Well, I feel like it's more of a Reddit thing probably than something for myself, because I think Uzi is just that much better than every other AD carry in the world. So it's not really like you have a mental block against the guy because he just shits on everyone. But I can imagine it looks like that. But in my mind, he's just really good player, so it's hard to not have a mental block against him, I guess, because he just always like does really well. But I don't think it's like a problem or anything. I feel like when I played against him in the past, I was always fine. I mean, I had a pretty bad tournament at MSI, but even in the semifinals to play against them, I was doing well. When I played against him in 2016, I was doing well. In 2017, we had a pretty close series, I would say. So I don't think it's like that big of a deal. I just think it's something Reddit has blown out of proportion.
About Reddit, you saw the Garen Yuumi memes about you guys, and I expect today people will hope that you play a real marksman matchup against him.
Well, so we actually had a talk yesterday about Garen Yuumi, because we all kind of saw, I guess, that people don't really like it. And we decided for ourselves what is best, right? Because I can understand if some people are getting affected by it. I, for one, don't really care, because I just want to win. So if we believe Garen Yuumi is the way to win, then we're going to keep playing it. But I wanted to hear what everyone else had to say, and I guess today will be a show of what we decided on. But we have addressed it, just as how we have addressed our own play and our team play. So I think if we can't win now, then it's just we're playing against better teams. But if we can win now, then we can go the entire way, and that's my belief, at least.
Listening to you right now, I don't hear a lot of confidence. Do you agree?
I agree, yeah. It's hard to have confidence after these 2 games. I mean, if I like really think about it, it feels kind of like Spring Split, in the beginning of Spring Split, where we had a really, really tough start and we didn't do much individually or as a team, and I feel kind of the same way right now. So I really hope that like one of these games can be the turnaround for us, because I really think we need confidence on ourselves and on each other, so that we can actually like get out of this group. Because I really believe if we get out of this group, then we can make it the entire way. Because other than G2, there's no one that's like scarier than RNG and SKT. So we really just need to get past one of them, and then we can take the other one in the finals, I guess.
And I hope that this game will be the confident boost for you guys. Thank you for the interview and good luck for today. Now back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Laure. Very, very awesome interview with Reckless. And I think he gave you a lot of information, seemed calm, cool, and collected. Maybe not that confident, but that is understandable. This is a very big match. And even though it might be a Reddit thing, the records just state that Fnatic and Reckless have had problems taking down RNG in the past, which is why we also brought it up.
Just to first say it, though, pro players often hide behind veneers in interviews. They don't want to give you their real self. Between the Doublelift interview and Reckless, I really appreciate appreciate a kind of peering into the mind there, but you also understand where Reckless is coming from, because specifically you look historically, the record does not look good, right? So whether it's a mental block, whether it's a 5v5 thing, Reckless was quoting a lot of timestamps. He remembers.
Yeah, he certainly does. But when it comes to the World Championship, all it takes is one moment, one player to stand up and to get the team back on track. And today, the player that I'm looking at is going to be Broxah. His early game so far has just been, not all that stellar. We were talking about his K+A yesterday, the fact that it's still 0. And I think this is a player that when he plays well, does set up the rest of his team for a lot of success. And we've already mentioned the Garen Yuumi bit, but if you get Healy and Broxah back on the same page, back into that dominant early game, I think that Fnatic are going to have a much better shot of being able to take it to RNG today.
That's definitely one of the biggest differences that we have seen. Fnatic now versus the Fnatic that people are used to is their early game, is Broxah.
Indeed, and not making anything happen early for Broxah means that nobody else is making anything happen as well, and that shows in the play and the fact that they can't be as convincing as they have been.
And also the draft as well. Yes. This should be their focus to try and change coming into this game.
What do they change in the draft?
I think that one of the issues with the Garen Yuumi, which I think could actually be a part of a victory today, thing you have to remember is don't really want to gank for that lane, and I don't think Broxah had many openings that he was missing. It was a byproduct of a system, but also a draft that really causes his stats to look just putrid.
We'll see what they go for. Another matchup I want to take a closer look at is in the mid lane, as I think these are two players that have been under the radar but playing very, very well. Xiaohu versus Nemesis.
Yeah, and coming into this World, I thought that Nemesis was one of those players that needed to be able to play well and didn't have all that much experience behind him to give confidence into that fact. However, the strength from the summer split does seem to now be bleeding over into Worlds, and going up against Xiaohu, maybe the most undervalued mid laner by his own team, doesn't necessarily get the resources he wants, but it does seem to be skewing a little bit in his favor at Worlds as well this year.
Yeah, I think one positive you can take away is that Nemesis is playing well on the world stage. He may be one of the best performing currently members of this Fnatic squad, and that kind of goes a long way when you're looking at the newer players on the big stage and playing under the pressure. Reckless himself gave that interview where he said it doesn't matter who's the better team coming to the tournament, matters how you handle the pressure that is at Worlds.
And full respect to Nemesis, I saw him in the EU Masters before he was on Fnatic. He played a similar style. He played takeover side lane champions like Kassadin, jumps onto the ADTF and does that in the LCS. And the LEC, I should say. And the fact that he's been so consistent, even with pieces changing him around him, thumbs up to him.
It's one of those cases where I was looking at the stats and it doesn't look that good, but it's not always about that purely in lane. It's about what you do to help out the rest of your team. For instance, in the huddle, there we see RNG getting ready and a little cheeky smile from Xiaohu as well. So with all of that information, we do also have to remember that now, even if you didn't have the best performance in the first days or the first games, this is where you absolutely have to make it count. For Fnatic, obviously, because they need that win, but for RNG as well, because they want to show that they can be a contender. Kobe, what is your prediction?
My prediction is going to be RNG today. I think Reckless himself touched on it when he talked about Uzi. The greatness of this player sometimes is whittled down by people going, between 15 minutes and the end of the game, they give him a large portion of the CS. But you know what happens before 15 minutes? He takes that CS from your AD carry and he earns it himself. There's a reason why everybody fears him. I think they're going to win.
All right, everyone's predictions explanation has to be as energetic as Kobe's.
All right, cool. So yesterday on Cooldown, we were talking about the power of this crowd. The fact that when you play in Europe, you not only play against a team, but also everyone here in the arena. And today, that's just not going to matter because RNG is going to absolutely smash Fnatic and they're going to pick up the victory.
The switcheroo, Papa.
I'm with Fnatic. I think Fnatic's got this one. Before the tournament, I look at the games, they weren't great, but they're going to go back to what worked domestically, and I think that aggression might catch RNG off guard.
Is he insane or is he a crowd pleaser or is he an oracle?
Bit of both, baby.
We're going to see. This is an iconic matchup, and RNG has had Fnatic's number so far at international events. Let's see if history will repeat itself.
This group that it seemed like it had been figured out with FPX at the top. Everyone in this group is now 1-1.
这次小组赛成绩的话，本来想的是 我们一把都没有输，全胜。
J-Team picking up the kills. They pick up the Baron. J-Team takes down FunPlus Phoenix.
现在已经输了一把嘛，然后后面我希望就全力以赴打好每一场比赛，拿5杠1的成绩。
Before there was Tien early into this team. Nailed it! Redemption for the first seed from China.
J-Team is probably the most important game, and since they won against FPX and we lost, that means they are 1 game ahead. So it's really important to get a win on every single game.
Getting a win against Griffin, it will matter a lot. Me against Jovi is going to be a really spicy matchup because we both like to win lane and we both like to take risks.
Knight goes down to Niski here, but Niski gets the kill. It's really nice yet. Here goes Jovi, lands the Vanguard's edge, count splashes away. That was beautiful.
我们现在就是真的很渴望先拿到首胜。
当我们拿下了一个胜利后，这是希望的开始。
I can see them like getting some good plays in there again.
Rest of the team is around the full charge. Zion Q.
But just how we played the entire year makes me believe that it's going to be hard for us to actually lose against them. But I can see us like having to fight for it.
And one of the tournament favorites takes care of business. Fnatic show what Europe can do, and they find their first win.
On one hand, I'm really happy that we actually won the game, but at the same time, I'm pretty frustrated and sad to see how poor our early games have been. Soon we're going to go up against RNG, and RNG is not going to make our lives easy.
Shut down over to Uzi and RNG. Strike back.
I think SKT should be still the best team in Group C. And if we actually take down the SKT, that means like we're going to be best team in Group C.
We always play better when our backs are against the wall. So now that we're 0-2, you're going to see us play a lot better.
On to Hilly, CC coming through, and that cat is out of there.
Time and time again, we just beat teams that are considered better than us. And I don't see why we can do it versus SKT.
And welcome to Day 4, the 2019 World Group Stage. I'm Quickshot, joined at the caster desk by Vedius and Azael. We're about to jump into RNG versus Fnatic, and I sincerely hope Fnatic can perform better than they have in the previous 2 days.
Yeah, we have not been seeing a lot of high performances from the likes of Fnatic, especially how high expectations were. They took G2 to 5 games twice. Many fans looked at Fnatic to be alongside tournament favorites G2, and people thought they would come into the tournament and smash, and that's not what we saw from this Fnatic squad.
And what I want to see is a return to the styles that got them that sort of success, with Hylissang roaming, with playing multiple lanes in the map, looking to split. Because I think that, this Garen Yuumi style that they have been showing, well, it has been proven to be a strong strategy, is not working out as well for Fnatic specifically.
No, definitely the case. Broxah as well having nearly no impact in the early game. Let's turn attention to RNG, on the other hand. Definitely put up a very strong fight against SKT, and you have to feel are the favorites here today based on performance. But what are you anticipating from the draft and as we're about to dive in?
Well, I feel like we've been seeing exactly what we expected from RNG. We've been seeing a lot of bot lane focus. We've been seeing a solid performance from Xiaohu, and Lang Jing has been demonstrating what he can do on the weak side of the map. So I expect that trend to continue to play towards the bot side of the map, enable Uzi during the early laning phase, and ultimately come down to these big team fights, which is very difficult for RNG to lose.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Everyone always talks about, the weakness of RNG being that it's so obvious what they're going to do. I think the strength is that it's so hard to stop, right? Like, when's the last time it wasn't about Uzi on a team with Uzi, right? They feed him all the farm, but they enable him, and he dominates lane phase. He brings that to the team fight stage, and these teams play so well around him to the level that he can just dominate even on the international stage.
And the reason why I felt that RNG faltered in the finals against FPX was because of how well Tien controlled Karsa in the jungle. And we already spoke about how Broxah has not had the best start to the tournament. We'll see if he can match up to the likes of Karsa and how much he provides for RNG in the early game.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Broxah return to that proactive style. He made Fnatic, I think, the best early game team in Europe, right? They were so aggressive, so proactive, you know, and he really does need to get to that level if they want to be able to overcome what is an incredibly difficult group.
Going to be very difficult. You can hear the fans cheering as Yumi's banned away by Royal Never Give Up, because that means Fnatic will not be running the Garen Yumi to catch up. Syndra, Gragas, Kiana removed from the pool, and RNG will lock in the Xayah first.
No surprise there, one of Uzi's most comfortable champions. It opens them up to go for the Xayah Rakan on the second rotation, but Fnatic, they shouldn't be they're immediately going for the Kayle and Lee Sin. Bold choice here from Fnatic.
Yeah, this is really interesting, and you know, one of the strengths of Kayle, though, in this current meta is that you can play it in so many different lanes, right? You really can play it as a three-way flex. We saw that the LCK teams were willing to play it as a bot laner as well, and it can withstand so many of these difficult matchups that it could really work out well for them.
We are moving surprisingly quickly through this draft. Both these teams coming in very well prepared with what they want to do, and RNG actually going to concede the Rakan. They don't care about it. We've been seeing a lot of Blitzcrank coming out from Ning, so they clearly have something else on their mind. The question that Fnatic now have is, do they want to go for support? It looks like that's going to be the case.
Morgana coming through, and this is interesting. You know, if you actually are going to pre-pick the Morgana, you're not now necessarily required to then ban out the Rakan. You can kind of leave that up, and you know, if RNG is willing to play it, Fnatic may be just happy to match that in the 2v2 since Morgana can be such a preferential matchup.
Morgana's also great into the Blitzcrank. We've been seeing so much from the side of RNG as well. Good into Rakan, good into the Blitz. It means that RNG will be forced into a different style of support that we're likely going to be seeing from Ming. So Fnatic coming in with a different style already in this draft against RNG.
I am wondering if Kai'Sa is going to be getting banned out whatsoever here, because it has gotten such high priority, you know, at Worlds this far. You know, yes, it has not been a huge pick for Rekkles in EU, but it has been so successful at the Worlds level, and it will be interesting to see if RNG is willing to leave that up.
Right now, I'm expecting Fnatic to leave the Gangplank open. It would give them a lot of weaker lanes in the early stage if you're going for a Kayle, but it depends. Right now, it looks like they're trying to ban away Langjing's safe side top laners, with the Vlad and Renekton being taken away, and given that Fnatic do have first pick, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually did see the GP ban come out from RNG.
Yeah, Fnatic also has the ability to actually take Aatrox, and then you have essentially banned out his second and third most played, you take away his most played, so there is an opportunity to really try to target Langjing in this draft, just by pushing him down in that champion pool.
We'll get a couple seconds left to find out which direction RNG and Fnatic will go, and then we'll get a little bit more of a glimpse into where this Kayle is going. So Gangplank has been removed from the pool. My question is, do they go for that Aatrox?
So I think Fnatic will likely look to lock in their AD carry now to keep things as flexible as possible. Remember, the Kayle can go into both top and mid. I would expect it to go into Nemesis' hands. He was the original Kayle player before any of the changes happened, and it's something that he's very comfortable on, but we know that Fnatic does like to be able to flex between those two solo lanes if they can. And looks like they're not going to do it. They're going to stick with the Shen for now.
So much for that.
So it does give a dive buddy there to Broxah, you know, allowing him to perhaps set up these four-man plays down on the bot side. If they want to pick for Rekkles, look for a 2v2, you know, RNG is going to have to lock in their support here, then Rekkles perhaps could have the ability to choose a preferential matchup and look to play heavily around that bot while we see Nemesis kind of holding the fort in that mid lane. That being said, Ryze is a very difficult matchup for Kayle pre-6, so that is something we're going to have to see if he can really play around to withstand, because it can be an extremely abusive matchup before Kayle turns on that ranged mode.
Yeah, it's none other than Xiao, who's Ryze, very well-known Ryze player, very comfortable on the champion, and we'll see how much impact he has right now. RNG just thinking about what supports they could go for. Karma would make a lot of sense, does very well into the likes of a Morgana because of how easily you can pop her Black Shield and you can generate a lot of pressure in the laning phase. If Fnatic wanted to go for...
this is Morgana bot. Ooh. This is a farming Morgana, or perhaps even Rekkles could be playing the Kayle, but I think it is Morgana as the farming bot lane here for Rekkles, assisted by Blitzcrank.
The Switch swap coming out from Fnatic.
And I think this is a response to the Karma, right?
Yeah,
you know, this is something where Blitz Morgana, if you actually hit a hook onto that Karma, that sets up for a free Power Fist, knock him up into the binding. You can 100-0 someone like that.
And vice versa, Dark Binding into hook, Power Fist, etc. Okay, Vedius, what do you make of the compositions now? It seems like a lot of answers to try and mitigate Uzi.
So What I think from Fnatic's comp is they're putting all of the eggs in the Nemesis basket. He is the primary damage dealer on the side of Fnatic. They're basically saying, you know what, we're going to funnel our gold, our resources, everything into you, and you will carry us. With things like the Shen ultimate and the Black Shield from Morgana, along with the Kayle ult, it's going to be very difficult to kill him once you get later into the game.
It really is going to be hard to knock him down. And, you know, if this was a couple patches ago, I'd be saying, all right, it's going to be AD Kayle. That's where they're going to be getting their consistent physical damage from. But now the nerfs to AD Kayle, almost everyone is going AP. And if he's going to be going AP as well, I do have some concerns about their damage profile.
Oh, this is so exciting. Fnatic leading on the youngest member of the team, the only member that was not there in the 2018 season. And let's see what they can do against Royal Never Give Up. And welcome back to RNG taking on Fnatic. We were very surprised and excited to see the last second changes to the Fnatic draft. And if you look at the mini-map, they are already making their way to the top side of the map. Let's see if they can catch any hooks onto Longxing.
Yeah, Bwipo's going to see if he can actually bait Longxing to come out and harass him with the Q. If he does that, Blitzcrank and Morgana will be coming behind you. So Bwipo should be stepping out now.
Look at the pathing. Look at the pathing in that small fog of war.
Oh, he's blind up. The hook! Longxing manages to escape for now. The hook misses. And the first skill shot.
Oh, that's too bad there for Fnatic. I think they could have been a bit more patient.
Yep.
And tried to wait until they had eyes on him. And also, you know, Rekkles holding onto that binding did allow Longxing to get close enough to the turret that he didn't even need to flash the skill shot.
Oh, so Longxing, he's able to get away with his life. RNG happy in the early game. Fnatic demonstrating some of their creative level 1 strats that they've often showcased here in Europe. But we talked a little bit about Fnatic's comp, and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about RNG's comp because it's a little bit more standard, but we'll do that after the replay. Notice the pathing that they take here. This is something that Fnatic have done in the past against G2, where they take this very specific path through so that they do not get spotted, but he goes to the hook blind, he isn't able to land it, and Fnatic do not find first blood.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate for them. The one saving grace of that invade, and something that makes it pretty worthwhile, is this is Gnar starting with E. So you're starting with your Hop. So you're actually going to cede lane priority until at least level 2 here for the Shen, which is a nice little advantage there for Bwipo.
Yeah, and of course, Rekkles starting Dark Binding Centaurian as well. We'll see what that can do. I would like to go back to Vedius. You were talking a little bit about the RNG comp and some of the specifics you want to see.
Yeah, so when we initially saw the draft, when we saw the Xayah Karma, you would imagine that they had the pushing 2 versus 2. Now, I think in the early laning phase, they still have this. Karma, Xayah will scale very well and will offer a lot of utility and damage later on into the game. Xiaohu will be effective on the side lane, but the thing that you have to be very careful of with RNG is how strong the Rek'Sai is in the early game and how easy it is for Xiaohu to roam around the map. Something that Azael was saying earlier was that this matchup is not great for the Kayle in the early laning phase, and something that Xiaohu loves to do is when he has priority, he will push up mid and move with the jungle into the enemy bot side, and you can see Karsa doing it now, getting a bit of control over the bot side of the map to give freedom to Uzi and Ming to keep a lot of pressure in the 2 versus 2.
The other thing worth noting here is how lane focused the runes are, and they're actually looking to set up a dive here on Nemesis.
There's the Unburrow Nemesis under the tower. Beautiful first blood from RNG. Don't even leave lane to do it.
Yeah, Nemesis is deciding he's already dead, so going to hold on to the flash there and try to avoid a repeat gank. Broxah is up on this top side, but the ward should spot him out if he wants to look for any sort of play.
Guys, I know you said that Kayle into Ryze was going to be difficult pre-6, but surely it's now impossible with this early kill and losing the CS under the tower.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good place for Nemesis to be, and I love the dive here. It's executed so well. Xiaohu takes the initial tower aggro. He stands just at the edge of the tower to allow Karsa to deal the damage, and by running Hail of Blades, he has a lot of setup. Now we see the dive in top.
All right, the taunt doesn't land. Bwipo has to dash away, embarrassed after Langxing easily escapes the attempt.
Yeah, Weibo had to really rush that because there was only 1 minion left for that tower to actually be on, so they did kind of have to rush out to go for that. And you can see this trading pattern is going to be so bad for Nemesis in the early stages, and this is kind of amplified by the fact that it's actually Comet here for Xiaohu on the rise. We can see it's Comet on the Karma, it's Hail of Blaze on the Rek'Sai. They really want to try to ramp up the pressure in this early game and play for lane advantages.
And this is one of the problems that Fnatic's comp inherently has. They don't have a lot of control in the early game. We talked so much about how we wanted to see Fnatic have more impact, more influence in the early laning phase, but it's hard because RNG have strong matchups all across the board. The only reason why Langjing is behind right now is because, as Azael said, he was forced to start with the E, so he can't generate as much pressure, but it gives Karsa all this freedom to pretty much go wherever he wants to on the map.
It certainly doesn't. While I will say the 2v2 right now is not preferential for Fnatic, their gank distance is incredible. So if they can get Broxah down there, if he can be unspotted to join in that lane, then all of a sudden that 3v2 becomes incredible because Lee Sin can provide that additional damage, and certainly they have the lockdown with this Fnatic bottom lane.
And of course, one of the things I want to go back to after this dive is Hylissang is going to be on a roaming support if we can find some impact. Very good unburrow. Switch Refuge comes up. Whippo. Karsa stays alive. Not going to find the kill just yet. But here comes Broxah. Going to get unburrowed again. Needs to find the Sonic Wave. Flash. E manages to get the auto. I think it's held on to the Q. That's the first kill for Fnatic. And now they're chasing Langxing.
Yeah, so well handled there by Whippo. And Broxah wants to try to look for this Q. Oh, not quite enough range there, but Whippo landing that early taunt onto Karsa really did force them to kind of push him out. You would have likely preferred Langxing to actually take tower aggro because he can sit right on the edge of that turret aggro.
And props to Whippo. The man has had a difficult first 2 days of Worlds, but the way he played this, flawless. He lands the taunt into the immediate Spirit's Refuge, which means that the Hail of Blaze Rek'Sai doesn't do any damage. He's then forced to immediately disengage. I thought the tower shot was going to be enough to find the kill, but fortunately for Fnatic, Broxah is in the top side of the map and can clean up Karsa. He doesn't take the gamble with the Q, flashes in, lands the E, finds the kill.
And that's one of the first times we've seen Broxah finding an opportunity in the early game. You can see kills plus assist at 15-0 thus far. Down 1,000 gold, obviously it's not been the greatest early games for Fnatic, but a very different style of comp, and very good to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we know how good Broxah can be from ahead, right? When he can get these advantages, how good he is at snowballing the game, and thankfully now for Fnatic, Nemesis has hit 6 in the mid lane. Yes, there is a big advantage there for Xiaohu, but at least the kill went to the Rek'Sai and not to his lane opponent, so hopefully he can start to stabilize this matchup, and things will get easier as you do get those additional points in queue and you start to really up your wave clear.
And something you were saying earlier, Azael, was how when Rekkles and Hylissang get a few more levels under their belt, there's potential for gank setup, but also there's more wave clear at their disposal. Morgana, when she has 3 points in the Tormented Soil, I believe it's called, it provides a huge amount of wave clear and it will just immediately kill the caster creeps, which means that they can actually be the ones to start generating pressure in the bot side of the map. And while Whippo has lost pressure onto the top side, it gives Broxah the opportunity to start playing around bot and helping Rekkles and Hylissang get to a stage where they can start looking for these picks.
And then can you talk a little bit about Hylissang on the Blitzcrank? One of the things we talked about, we wanted a roaming support. We wanted a champion that can impact other lanes. With the wave clear and push that Morgana has, the rocket grab is going to instantly kill it. And look, this time Broxah comes to him. But obviously, Hylissang can start moving wherever he wants as well.
And him coming to the bottom lane now is going to help to unlock Hylissang to leave that bottom lane, right? You get the kill there, you can start to move around the map, you can gain that pressure, and this is going to unlock the Ocean Dragon.
You're completely right, Azael. We were just talking about how once the Morgana and Blitzcrank get a couple levels under their belt, they can start generating pressure in the 2v2, and Broxah can start to look to play around this lane. He then finds a successful kill. We're going to have a look back at it. Note that there is no vision in the river because Ming and Uzi could not push out after the reset. They're able to land a flash. Ming does not respect, and he doesn't flash out of the way, which means that the combined crowd control guarantees the pick.
I've also got to say, I really like the timing on the binding there from Rekkles. Instead of just an instant binding out of the hook, he waited until that knockup was actually expiring to land it, and Ming is going to have to flash basically every hook that is on point, or you're at risk of just dying 100-0.
And now Rekkles is level 6. Hylissang is the same. I imagine he's going to look to base, grab early Mobies or early boots, and we'll start to see the roaming Hylissang, because Rekkles, he can just play 1v2 in this lane now. You don't need to play around this Morgana, you just want him to survive, you just want him to stay healthy. But it's difficult to read the mind of Hylissang.
Ooh.
Looks like he's going for a couple more cheeky plays in the bot lane.
He was trying. Now Ming is going to throw out that empowered Q, get some damage down. And Casa is making his way down again, as you mentioned. But, like you said, unlocking Hylissang is one of the keys that has been crucial for Fnatic to win this summer. And when they found their groove, as it stands, Nemesis and Rekkles just a little behind in CS, but as a team, they are marginally up on goals.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if they try to force a play, because Bwipo did get the leap out of Longxing there, so it's a slight vulnerability, but it is just going to be Brox actually covering Bwipo as he is shoving in this wave, and they haven't had eyes on Karsa for quite some time.
Both junglers trading areas of the map pretty much throughout this game, except for that one counter gank we saw up top lane. Whenever Broxah is pathing up towards top, Karsa is gaining control over the bot side of the map, and that's why we're seeing a lot of ebb and flow in who has control and when. I think we can already see a notable improvement in Brox's pathing and how he's doing a lot more to cover for the entire map and not making these silly mistakes. As now Hylissang looking for the rogue.
Flash hook, trading flashes. I think they're going to be happy with that.
I absolutely love that. Yeah, just make him trade the flash. As soon as Xiaohu actually walked to the left of the turret against the wall, there's no sidestepping it. So utilizing the speed up with the Blitzcrank W, as well as the speed up from the Kael's heal, he closed that gap so fast.
And now RNG are getting out of the lane. They're moving up towards top side. They're looking to set up plays around the Herald, and they want to try and use the big stacking wave that they have up top to try and accelerate the pace of the game. Because something that RNG do incredibly well is move their bot lane effectively around the map. And they're trying to take advantage of the fact that the Morgana early on cannot match the Xayah and the Khan.
That makes a lot of sense. And coming into this game, we were hoping for a little bit of an AD matchup if possible, but obviously the Morgana threw a spanner in the works. Rift Herald will be picked up here uncontested for now. Hylissang, he's looking for a rocket grab, going fishing, will find one. Divine Judgment comes down, buys enough time, but look at the shields. Stopwatch comes out, here comes Bwipo. Stand United completes. Oh! That's a huge no! Longxing shuts Fnatic against the wall, and the Realm Walk was looking for a chase, but they get 2 kills, they get the Herald, and they get out.
RNG find a massive fight at the Herald, and this went way better than they expected as Broxah.
Oh, what's that coming over the wall? He's got a flash to safety. Almost got Ming, but not enough damage yet.
But this was Fnatic trying to force a fight that they were not in a position to force. The Herald was already gone. They are not strong enough to be able to contest at this point in the game, and this is the variability in performance that you often see from Hylissang. He charged up into the front of things when the Herald is already gone. You can see that he's looking for a pick, but Rekkles isn't in position. Broxah is disengaging. And while he has a lot of tools to keep him alive, Fnatic, there's no way they realistically come out ahead in this fight.
Yeah, they just didn't have the damage and kind of the setup at this point in the game. You know, they saw how much survivability you have with the Shen ult, with the Black Shield, with the Kael ult, but as soon as Longxing gets in there for the ultimate, the fight was absolutely over.
And RNG, they take a commanding lead as they come out of the fight. I mean, Broxah's got a decent amount of damage. You have to imagine if the Ian and Auto had hit, it would be close.
Yeah, that would have been a kill. That would have been a kill.
But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So RNG accelerated 1,000 gold up. You can see Xiaohu and Karsa currently leading the way. As the rest of the team are now jockeying for control. 3 kills to 2. No towers down yet, but the shenanigans are moving around the map. Top laners find themselves down bottom, and a lot of members of RNG are moving to the top lane right now.
We're now seeing Hylissang roam around a lot. Oh, great interrupt onto the Herald. Will buy Fnatic a lot of time. Hylissang still no flash.
Yeah, Hylissang's in so much trouble. Will just get taken down. Can't even finish the channel on that static shield. The RNG fans here in Berlin going crazy as they pick up their 4th kill.
You know, honestly, not that bad, though, giving the support's life. You know, you are going to get 320 gold for the turret plates, and perhaps that turret then goes down. So as long as RNG doesn't take a turret while Hylissang is off the map, I think it's a reasonable trade.
Definitely works out in their favor, I suppose, especially if you can hold on to this laning phase, extend it a little bit more, buy time for Nemesis on Kael to get items. Yeah, I heard it and I was like, I'm not going to commit. But, you know, Vedius, you said it a little while ago that Nemesis played Kael even pre-rework. He actually picked up a pentakill on that champion against Vitality in Spring. And I'm a little surprised to see Fnatic leaning so heavily on him when you see all of the support tools. But let's see if he's going to deliver as this game plays out. For now, RNG will pick up their first dragon of the game. No shenanigans in the mid lane, and Fnatic are pushing top tower.
So what's important to reinforce is that at this point in the game, RNG are much stronger than Fnatic. at one item, they should just be able to outmuscle a lot of what Fnatic try and do. And Fnatic want to just trade sides of the map. Not contesting for that Ocean was the best case scenario for them because they can't afford to. Getting more gold onto Nemesis is the ideal because you want to get him online, 2 to 3 items, and then once you're at that point, you can start looking for team fights.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing here for Fnatic is that they have options to actually avoid RNG in this game, right? They're not playing just a pure 5v5 comp. You can have Kayle in one side lane. You can see the Titanic Hydra built up from Bwipo here, so he's going to be heavily focusing on that split push. And as you spread RNG out across the map, that's going to open up opportunities for this roam squad kind of here of Broxah and Hylissang to find picks.
All right, well, the turret plates have now finished off, and hopefully Hylissang can find some more successful picks to keep this gold close. It's still 2,000 if Fnatic are down. As we're about to hit the 15-minute mark, one of the things we talked about coming into this match was Uzi versus Rekkles. We heard Rekkles talking about the matchup in the pre-game interview, and we looked at some of the stats. The main one I want to focus on is that Uzi versus Rekkles is 8 wins and 1 loss. And while the CSD and damage per minute is
going to be a little skewed
it will be skewed, right? and that's why I want to kind of focus more on the 8-1 record. Rekkles actually commented quite directly that social media and Reddit's blowing it out of proportion, and we're not saying they're completely mismatched. We're just saying Uzi finds the difference every time they have played to have a phenomenal win-loss against him.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons for that phenomenal win-loss is that oftentimes in the past, Fnatic was essentially RNG light, right? They were all about the 5v5. They were all about Rekkles, and they just did it slightly better. I think one of the reasons that a lot of people are giving Fnatic more of a chance this year against RNG is because they have developed more of a different playstyle where they have roaming, they play side lanes, and you are not now just trying to imitate what RNG is doing, and I think Fnatic is really set up well to kind of have some success in this game.
And the team composition screams it, doesn't it? Morgana, Blitz, bot, Kayle mid. This is as far from Garen Yuumi as you can get. And so far, there are elements of it that's working, but they are still falling behind. That Rift Herald play hurt them so much.
The big question mark at the end of the day for Fnatic is how will Nemesis deal with the responsibility of carrying? Because this is his first international event, this is his first year with Fnatic, and while he definitely had a great split, now all of the eggs are on the Nemesis basket, and we know that Uzi and Xiaohu are more than comfortable to carry, given their many years of experience, but can Nemesis do the same thing?
Oh man, Lungxing's just going to run down Bwipo, forces out the flash. Mega Gnar's about to prop, and that will be the ultimate coming backwards. Brox has already used the ulti, he's jumped in, Lungxing down below 1,000. Broxah continues to chase, he'll at least get the flash out. So therefore, it's a trade of flashes between the respective top laners.
Now, Lungxing had to flash there because Bwipo was just about to base and had the ulti up. If he had continued to persist in the fight, it would have turned into a 2 versus 1, which he just didn't want to take. Speaking of ultis...
All right, there's Xiaohu's already flashed. There's the chase. Realm Warp coming out. That's a blown up Xiaohu. 3rd kill for Fnatic.
Yeah, huge play there for Fnatic, utilizing Bwipo to actually knock down Xiaohu and get his flash just after Broxah forces the flash out of Longxing. So this is going to give Fnatic a lot of priority in the side lanes and may put a little bit of pressure on RNG to try to get something done around Uzi.
And this is what Fnatic want to do in the interim while they're still scaling up. Look for picks. We already talked a lot earlier about the roaming gank squad of Broxah and Hylissang, but now they can use the Shen ultimate to show up on the side lanes as well, and this is a great example of it. Xiaohu, he's holding onto his flash, he dodges out from the taunt, he nearly gets out with the ulti, but the combined burst damage of Bwipo and Nemesis at the last second was enough to secure the kill.
Yeah, that Shen Q plus Titanic Hydra, like that is actually quite a punch in the early game. You can put out quite a bit of damage with it.
And of course, if you look at the itemization, Gunblade picked up for Nemesis, got himself that Stinger for now. Seeing on the other side, Xiaohu working his way towards the Archangel. So pretty much one big ticket item across the board. And it's very close as we're going towards 20 minutes. But surprisingly, still only 1 tower down. Fnatic have been proactive enough in moving on the map. Uzi's just not really had a lot of time to hit those towers, and it's Fnatic with the only advantage right now.
Now remember, RNG, it's not like they need to force anything now. It's that at around 2 items, RNG's comp spikes really hard, and that's where I want to really see them press the advantage. Dragon is spawning in about 20 seconds. They should be able to get this uncontested, and once those second items come through, that's when I want to see RNG looking to force more fights, looking to set up around Barons and towers, and trying to force Fnatic into situations what they're not ready to be in yet.
I also think that RNG, has a kind of a more consistent team fight comp, right? Fanatics is very reliant upon hitting the skill shots. Can you land the hook? Can you land the binding to get these sorts of setups to take down the likes of Uzi? Whereas RNG, if they're able to avoid some of these skill shots, so much consistent damage is going to be coming out from Xiaohu and Uzi, who is running a cleanse to try to account for that, and also has Xayah ultimate to dodge out more.
Well, let's see if those skill shots will connect this time around, Azael, because RNG, they pulled the Mountain Drake and they backed away. Did they get the teleport out of Nemesis? Yes, they did. Now Fnatic, they've started it off. TP is up for Langxing, and he hasn't TP'd yet.
Wow. So, Karsa actually went into the pit. He does have flash, but he doesn't need to use it. He's going to use the tunnel to get out of that situation. I am surprised by the fact that RNG were forced off the situation, but the biggest problem for them was that this mid lane, they did not have control over it. Fnatic set up push, and they also had push in the top side, and RNG felt the need to go and answer those two waves. As a result, they disengage off the Drake, and Fnatic as 5 members can easily come up and secure it. It did cost them the teleport away from Nemesis, so RNG does have the TP advantage, meaning Fnatic probably want to wait a little while before they try and force another engage.
The other thing dangerous as RNG, if you match the teleports, then Fnatic inherently is going to have the advantage with the Stand United, right? So then they can look to make plays, odd number plays, and perhaps RNG just not too concerned about giving up that Dragon.
Yeah, and not only the Stand United, there's an extra TP on the side of Fnatic as well. So 2 additional globals to play with. If you can find those picks that leads to objectives for Fnatic and maybe avoid the 5v5s that you really don't want to go toe-to-toe with RNG with, it is another avenue they can look to exploit.
And this is why I like that Fnatic is actually playing pretty aggressively, right? They're willing to commit teleports to do the objectives. We're seeing Hylissang trade flashes multiple times throughout the game, because anytime you're running a Shen comp, I think you want to be constantly forcing responses out of your opponent so that you can get advantage of that extra global, and even more so in this game where you have an additional teleport on top of that.
And just a reminder, of course, that we're 20 minutes into this game. This is now the last game that these teams will play in the first half of the group stage. They've both lost to SKT. They've both beaten Clutch. This is the first taste of what could determine the second place team in this group, unless somebody's able to find that upset win over SK Telecom. So there is a lot on the line in this group, and that is assuming, of course, that Clutch don't upset and surprise everyone. They really can play spoiler at the moment, and they'll be playing SKT next. The group will be blown wide open if they were able to pick up a win there.
So we've been talking a lot about items throughout this game and like points at which teams will look to fight, and I feel RNG is very close to a point at which they should feel comfortable forcing a lot of these fights. The thing that they need to be concerned of is how Nemesis is now level 13. I believe he's actually ahead in gold up against his lane counterpart as well, and he's just been, thanks to Kleptomancy and all the resources that have been funneled into him, actually very strong as well. So these fights at this point in the game probably is not as clear-cut as we necessarily expect them to be.
And then it also goes down to the Black Shields, the Divine Judgments, the Rocket Grab, the Silence. If you use those in the right order, it's a higher difficulty of execution on Fnatic, but it can help them out as well.
Yeah, it certainly can. And I mean, you always have to think about when you see a composition like this, the Kayle Morgana combo. When you have Kayle ultimate down and Black Shield, you are immune to everything. There's no CC that can come through. There's no damage that you can hurt you. And as you get later and later into the game, and the Kayle ultimate, gets longer and longer than the cast time, you're left with this window of opportunity where no one can stop the Kayle whatsoever in any way, and you can put out incredible amounts of damage.
Can I ask your opinion? What do you think of the Nemesis build? We've got Gunblade into Nash's Tooth. Where does he go from there? And we were talking a little bit about that beforehand.
Yeah, so this is pretty standard these days ever since AP kind of has become more effective. I think because you are the solo damage threat, I think you just continue to build more aggressively. Things like a Death Cap can make a lot of sense. Traditionally, we do see a lot of Zhonya's Hourglass third if you are worried about the dive and perhaps want a response to that, but I think he can afford to go fairly aggressive.
Yeah, I think that the itemization right now is, I'm a big fan, and I think that it'll end up doing a lot of damage. It's ultimately what Fnatic want. And they're also looking for a pick right now. Hylissang on his way.
All right, he's looking for a target. Banshee's Veil and Xiao, who is worth so much money right now. Spooky Ghost spots out a couple members of RNG, but you have to find some way to pop that Banshees before you can get in.
I like how RNG reacted here. They were confident that Fnatic would not start the Baron, so they didn't face check. And it felt like they were aware of a possibility of Fnatic looking for a pick. So they just sent Langjing down to bot lane, set up that push, and then they just kind of cautiously hovered around the Baron. They maintained control over their half of the jungle without overextending, which means the moment Fnatic revealed themselves, no one ends up going down, and it's RNG that actually get to collect the farm and create a point of pressure on the map.
There's still 1,500 gold up. Now this time round, Fnatic are going to call the bluff. Their blue trinket from RNG is being blinded by the control ward. Now another ward comes over the wall. Now it's finally done. Hylissang's looking for a fish, looking for the rocket grab. Decides to hold the trigger for now. Stand United and TP is available for Bwipo. He doesn't use either.
One of the things we're going to have to remember also with the Kayle, a strength here between Ocean Dragon and your W spam, that is healing 2 people. You actually have fairly good sustain and the ability to constantly start up objectives like this and shrug off a lot of the damage that they will deal.
You're also seeing how Fnatic are forcing RNG to come and face check them, and no one wants to face check a Morgana Blitzcrank because you're going to... Oh, Reckless.
All right, that's a very good Black Shield. The teleport comes out. No, the Realm of Brother comes out as well. Reckless flashes down.
Yeah, that is the flash, and that gives RNG access now into this barren area. They are going to be able to clear out all the Fnatic vision, get some of their own down here, and try to establish control really for the first time in that area.
Let's see what Nemesis does with his reset. We'll just pick up the Blasting Wand, and it felt like that he was getting very close to his 3rd itemization there, but... the main point is that, as you were saying, Azel, RNG have been able to reclaim a little bit more map control, and I'm surprised by how defensively they're playing, but one of the things I think we haven't really talked about is how difficult it is for RNG to actually engage. Remember that a lot of the fights that they started came off the back of Ming on his Blitzcrank, running up and basically doing what Hylissang is doing, forcing you into situations where you have to come and fight RNG. However, now they have to rely on a flank from Langjing or a flank from Caster to actually find that initiation, and they're not actually able to successfully find those picks, which means that Fnatic just gets to sit back and continue to scale.
Well, Xiaohu's going to take that teleport to the top lane. This will be the 2nd of the game. I'm looking at the vision to see whether or not RNG can find those flanks right now, because Fnatic did a fairly good job of holding on to Baron sort of river control for a few minutes until that attempted gank onto Reckless, and Nemesis is stepping forward. He gets minion blocked. Not going to go down yet. He still had the Divine Judgment if it was needed, but this will be a tower trade, and he's not going to go for Langxing yet. Here comes Broxton. He's too late.
Yeah, and this is really nice, just swapping Nemesis, changing up those lane assignments over into Langxing. The Kayle certainly can answer this Gnar a lot better at this point in the game, and you know, Bwipo is itemizing fairly defensively here, has picked up a cow, and he's going to be kind of parked in this side lane, it seems like, against the Ryze, trying to help deal with him.
Now, who do you favor in that side lane? Kayle at this point, who's level 14, 2.5 items, because Nemesis seems to definitely have Langxing's number. Now Hylissang's in trouble, got the flash available, will not find the rocket grab onto Uzi as he fades away, and RNG start to threaten the Baron if Fnatic play the rest.
That's starting it.
All right, they are starting it indeed. What is the response here? Teleports, remember, still available. He's got it up for Nemesis. Mega Gnar is now procced for Langxing. Broxton,
Fnatic doesn't know.
Pushing mid.
Caster's taking so much damage from the Baron, though, and between him and Xiaohu, they actually don't have the survivability to secure this, which means that Fnatic, they didn't have to do anything. A play was being happened, and they had no idea what was going on, and they still got away with it.
How much do you criticize Fnatic for being unaware? Because now, obviously, RNG attempted and failed, but do you think Fnatic should have known? Do you think they should have had vision?
I mean, you can make the argument that maybe they should have kind of been aware that someone's off the map, but I think they're making the read that at this point in the game, RNG can't do it without Uzi and Langxing, who were both showing on the map, right? And they were clearly correct in that read.
Well, listen, 26.5 minutes in, the next Ocean Drake goes down. It'll be an Infernal before we expect an Elder to come up. Nemesis is taking a lot of damage from Langxing. He was about to proc the Mega Gnar. Take a look at your CS numbers on screen, by the way. 316 in nearly 27 minutes for Uzi. He saw what Chovy was doing yesterday and said, I can do better. Fantastic.
Honestly, sounds like he's slacking a little bit, to be honest, compared to normal Uzi performances, quick shot. But, of course, the man, he's always praised for building these massive CS discrepancies.
It helps into a Morgana.
And how efficient he is with his farming as well. But Uzi now level 15. We did get to see his gold just a little bit ago, and you can see that he was sitting on the highest amount in the game, along with Xiaohu and Langxing. And RNG, we talked about it earlier, they're good to fight. Yep. They're ready to go. But Fnatic aren't taking any of the bait. Fnatic are not coming into them. It's actually RNG who are getting caught out.
It was a catch onto Ming. Nothing else has happened, though. No further follow-up. Teleport will start to be channeled. That looks like Nemesis coming in from base. He's now picked up the Liandry's Torment and has level 16. We'll get some time to discuss the build in a few seconds, but look at the damage going down into Hylissang. He throws out the static field. Nemesis gets tagged by a couple of feathers and is running for his life, but I think the rocket grab is still available for Hylissang.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of the Liandry's. I think because of your consistent DPS that comes out, the burn damage will build up, and as Kayle, you just get more and more damage, so it adds a bit of health, and I think that against this comp, especially when there is a
Warp. Round Warp.
Oh, the flank.
Round Warp. RNG are looking for the fight with the Mega Gnar. They've caught themselves onto Hylissang. He gets the Black Shield and will get taken down. Now to focus. Uzi is being shut down and pushed out of the fight. It's a split. 5 versus 4. Divine Judgment still available for Nemesis. It needs to be crucial. It's thrown down and they will keep Nemesis alive. He stepped backwards for now. Carcer below 400 HP. He gets the Unburrow onto Reckless. Now Bwipo spurs Refuge into the Taunts. Will not buy enough time. RNG have found 3 and they turn towards the Baron.
Yeah, there's still 5 members alive on the side of RNG. They're going to start this one off. It all comes down to whether or not Broxah can steal the Baron.
Broxah, he's got Flash, he's got Smite, he's got Dragon Rage, but he's got to deal with Langxing. Nemesis is below half HP. Baron at 3,000. Broxah's being forced away. Xiaohu comes in for backup. That is a clean Baron defense, and RNG accelerate their lead.
Yeah, no chance for Broxah to steal that one, and RNG initiate the fight very nicely here, utilizing the Realm Warp right on the Mega Gnar timing here for Langxing. Right as he's actually gnarring out, they send him in. Hylissang has to go in full retreat, but the Black Shield is late there on the stun coming through. Carson is able to flash over, and they're taking him down. Meanwhile, Fnatic had pushed Uzi out of the fight, but you have to deal with Xiaohu, and the amount of damage here is just incredible.
Fnatic end up getting divided in this fight, and RNG, they just buy their time. They dance in, they dance out, and they use their range and mobility to be able to consistently close the gap against Fnatic, and a lot of the damage comes from Nemesis. He wasn't able to dish it, which means that RNG end up coming out on top.
And of course, that What's Your Move replay allows RNG a 4,000 gold lead, 7 kills to 3, and the Baron buff as they can start to push down Fnatic's base.
And I think one of the most impressive things about that team fight for me was simply how spread RNG maintained, right? You know, they have such good team fight discipline, never grouping up for what could have been a flash ultimate from the Morgana. You know, Reckless had that available for almost the whole fight and did have to just flash and ult one person trying to retreat in the end. RNG's positioning is just immaculate as they kind of keep this semi-circled around you.
And we talked a few minutes beforehand how RNG were looking for a fight, but the tools they had available. Well, if you can't get a flank, just force it with Realm Warp, and that's exactly what happened. One thing to note, how difficult it's going to be for Fnatic to clear these waves out. Baron empowered minions, with the Kayle and the Morgana, it's going to take a long time.
But look, RNG is setting up on the side waves as well. They have Xiaohu in the top lane. They have Langxing in the bot lane. With the Baron, it's very easy for RNG to just threaten the base at multiple points from Fnatic. And while they do have Nemesis, he doesn't have teleport. Bwipo will have the ulti if he wants to try and join in the event of a force. But right now, RNG just have too much pressure on the map, and Fnatic will be forced to concede at least some of their base.
Yeah, they certainly will, and it gets really difficult. Every time Nemesis has to come and group up with the rest of the team, Xiaohu is given time to actually push up, and RNG is backing off anytime Kayle is not on the map to not give Fnatic any opportunity of having a positive fight.
Yeah, that's already 2 towers down. A third looks like it might go down in a moment. 3,500 gold Baron power play. And as that mid lane outer was being sieged, Ming got caught by the Dark Binding. I love that instantaneously Caster steps forward and it's like, what are you going to do, Hilly? Do you want to grab me? You've got no backup, you've got no support. The team is just playing the split push perfectly. They even get an Infernal on the way out and still 45 seconds left the Baron.
Yeah, so quite a nice power play there for RNG. You know, not massive, but an additional 3,600 gold in the lead for them is a big deal. And while we are in kind of this reset, I want to talk a little bit more about the Liandry's. And with Liandry's, everyone does always talk about the burn, which is very powerful. It's an efficient item, you know, even just with that. But something that's often overlooked is actually the Madness passive, which stacks up to 10% flat more damage during a fight. So for a champion like Kayle that is getting a lot out of the AP, as well as that true damage, or excuse me, magic damage burn, the flat 10% is also an incredible amount of damage.
Yeah, it definitely stacks up, and if you're going to be burning through Xiaohu's shields and Langxing's Mega Gnar, it takes time. But look at that damage onto Hylissang. Uzi's Featherstorm comes out, there's a teleport coming down, Carcer gets the Unburrow onto Hilly, Static Field will buy some time, and the Dragon's Rage sends them backwards. Nemesis holds on to his ultimate, and Bwipo, no TP, no Stand United, they just concede Hilly's life.
Yeah, they just leave the support to the Wolves. RNG more than happy to pick that kill up, and for now they don't need to force. They know that the Baron is spawning in 2 minutes, they feel that they can get a good fight around that objective, and I also love the itemization that we're seeing from Uzi. Something that we said at the beginning of the game was that there's a single damage profile pretty much. It's all coming off of Nemesis. It's all magic damage, and it makes it that much harder to kill Uzi, especially given that he has the additional peel of Ming. And while it is hard for RNG to find these fights, they've been pretty creative in how they found a lot of these flanks. And I think that now they have so much control over the map in terms of wave setup and the river control. It's now Fnatic who's in an awkward position where they have to find a pick, otherwise they can't be the team to find a fight.
Yeah, and getting those picks becomes more and more difficult, right? You know, when you're looking at all of this vision that RNG actually has, you know, they're essentially extending their vision all the way across the map, almost to this line, right? Less and less of the map is becoming kind of these safe dark zones that Blitzcrank and Morgana really want to play in, because at this level, you expect these players to be able to dodge Blitzcrank hooks that they see coming.
Man, it's been such an exciting game thus far, and Fnatic, you have to imagine they still have the ability to disrupt RNG if they can be setting plays up, but when they get caught out, it's trouble. Stand United this time is channeled. Divine Judgment is going to get needed in a moment. It's thrown down onto Nemesis. Xiaohu goes forward, goes backwards, and now Bwipo's in trouble. Langxing's about to gnaw out. Flash is available as well. He throws the boulder. It hits Rekkles. Rekkles has already thrown the flash down. Manages to catch the Dark Binding, but the rest of RNG are pushing for the base.
Yeah, they're going for the base, and Xiaohu's looking to wrap around here potentially.
All right, another boulder toss. That throws down to Nemesis. There may have been enough acting from Fnatic to pull RNG away from the inhibitor turret, at least for a few seconds.
So much praise needs to be given to Xiaohu for how, in every single fight, he is single-handedly eliminating Nemesis. With a single combo, he pretty much removes Nemesis' health bar, which makes it impossible for him to get into the fight once again. This Ryze pick for the mid laner of RNG is a game changer.
It definitely is, and we see, you know, with the death cap completed, he has the Spellbinder's Orb. He's been incredible, right? You know, and he's sitting at such a strong point in the game now. Ryze scaling is so powerful.
And of course, he's sitting 2-1-5, 400 gold bounty, 3-0-4 for Langxing's Gnaw. Been fantastic. This is a teleport coming in, looks like from Bwipo. And it's going to be the case. Now, Baron's been started. If you look at the minimap, RNG are very nearby. Hylissang steps forward. This is potentially do or die for Fnatic. There's going to be a fight inside the pit. Bwipo will not find the taunt. Static Field will go down from Hylissang, but the Megalon comes out. 3 more members of Fnatic are chucked down. Divine Judgment needs to do something here for Nemesis. 4 versus 3. Uzi flashes forward. He gets Hylissang. The feathers fly, and they've come back. 1-2 for Nemesis. He needs to fight more. Xiaohu is low, but Uzi finishes it off. There's not enough damage from Fnatic.
And RNG can close the game off of this. Everyone wiped off the map. They are going to push down mid. Nemesis so close to having the heroics, but it won't be enough.
And when it matters most, Uzi comes up clutch. The star for RNG wins the team fight and will take the win over Fnatic.
Fantastic performance from RNG as they will close out the first half of groups 2-1.
Nemesis was so close in the final team fight for bringing it back to Fnatic, but the dance from Xiaohu and Uzi was just so beautiful to watch. These two were so incredible. Xiaohu would set up the plays, and Uzi would just knock him down.
I agree. I mean, you have to look at the positioning. You have to look at the ability to always avoid a grouped up situation where Rekkles could get a good ultimate. There was no opportunity, it felt like, for him to do so. And that is because the immaculate positioning here and team fighting from RNG. This is how they have made a name for themselves on the international stage. And they show why they are a team to be feared here at Worlds 2019.
Absolutely the case. I've thoroughly enjoyed every single one of RNG's games thus far in groups. I enjoyed this Fnatic game a little more than I did the 2 previous ones, but it is a difficult task ahead on Saturday. And all 4 teams from this group will come back to the stage again. And for Fnatic now sitting, they'll be watching Clutch versus SKT, hoping Clutch can find an upset, just increasing the chances of being one of those teams to make it out of groups.
Yeah, they're going to have to maybe depend on a little bit of help, but we have seen Fnatic come back from 0-4 in group stages and make incredible runs, so they're certainly far from being out of it. And I know a lot of people are going to throw criticism towards the Blitzcrank, didn't have a good score line, didn't be able to accomplish that much, but I do respect the attempt here.
I agree.
From Fnatic, and so many times at Worlds we're crediting the innovation and the change of play style, and I think Fnatic is trying to find something that really is going to kind of upset the tournament.
For me, I felt that we saw a lot of poorly set up and executed fights from the side of Fnatic, but it just goes to show how talented RNG is at team fighting. And I really want to give so much praise to Xiaohu, a guy that didn't have the best playoffs, had a fantastic Rise game, and I was very impressed.
Well, we have to move on and hear a little bit more about the game from the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. Indeed, a lot to unpack about that game and also about the draft. A lot of curveballs coming in, but it wasn't enough for the side of Fnatic. However, there's more to those comps than meets the eye, Papa Smithy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people threw shade at Fnatic for going for this mono damage comp. It's Kayle in the late game, nothing else going to happen, but if you told me it was going to late game, I kind of already gave it to RNG one way or the other. Yeah. And this is a comp we've seen in Korea before. SKT last year, the few games they were able to win was actually with Bang and Effort playing Morgana Pike, Morgana Blitz, basically comps that allow the Pike especially. I think that was going to be the pick here before it was banned more for Hylissang and his reputation on the pick rather than the Morgana carry. But it was banned mostly to stop a roaming champion from roaming through and getting a lot of snowball advantages. So I actually give them credit for the comp. It's like a variant on Garen Yuumi, even though the champions are very different. But you need to actually pull off the Blitzcrank side of things. It's a little bit more tricky than the Pike, and it didn't come together in this game.
And my problem with it was if you're running a single carry comp, generally they have to be able to get into the fight, and you rely on people coming to you as Kayle, and that's what we saw in that last team fight. Despite Nemesis pumping out a lot of damage, was not able to line up the perfect scenario between Uzi and Xiaohu.
Exactly. A lot of people will always look at the carry of these compositions, but so much is on how you use the utility that you did draft. That's the spot that they sacrificed for not getting another carry. It isn't just a Blitzcrank, but it's also the Shen ultimate. So the Lee Sin. A lot of these champions have the tools to create those picks, create those things with their utility, and the execution just was not there.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're not giving yourself a very big window because it all has to go right, and synergy is such a big issue. And I feel like from this moment on, I realized that perhaps Fnatic was not completely in sync in this game. Is that fair to say for some of the early moves?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to attack Gnar top lane just because of the fact that he does have the bounce, the double jump at the start of the game. But I think that if you're running this comp, you need a good early game because there's going to be a sweet spot window in the mid game where you will come online. And a lot of this was about Karsa being able to be very proactive. He already picked up a kill at level 2. You could see him trying to get in the top lane as well. And I think he had a very good game.
And you saw a 0 kill plus assist at 15 in 2 games, Broxah. Flashy, don't worry about hitting any skill shots there. He finally got on the board. But it was a better Fnatic performance. It has to be admitted. I think they had ideas and there were spots that worked here, even though by the end, when Uzi's items were together, it looked very difficult to actually get over the line.
And the early mid game is very critical for this composition for Fnatic. And that Rift Herald that they went to late and then still fought and gave away so many of those kills, that was a game-breaking moment.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the decisions, that was what I meant actually with the synergy. Like sometimes it feels like they didn't really have the right timings or ideas about some things. And when you run this comp, that is going to be extremely disruptive. And then you had 2 tails in the mid game because you know that if you grab someone, you'll probably be able to kill him. But on the other hand, you have that team of RNG that is so good at team fighting and doing those skirmishes. So it did feel like the clock was running out a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, the couple of attempts they made with a Turbo Blitz weren't coming together. And every time we flashed to a 5v5, the positioning, the movements, it's happened from RNG already this tournament and on full display here.
And this is what changed about RNG last year. They stopped being a team that only looked for team fight and they started to work a lot on their setup. And I think that this Baron play was a very good example of how well they understand how to play around their carries.
In a tournament where we have had so many Baron steals and poor setups, this was a really well executed one. Plus, at the start of this team fight, I really want to compliment RNG on how they always attack the Blitzcrank and take away some of those openings. Now you can see them dissecting the team, taking away the threat there, not giving Nemesis room to be the threat on.
Because often as the Kayle, you want to be the quarterback at points and then open up with the auto attacks. The ult is not always a self-ult, but they just never got those sort of fights. Now flashing onto the Baron. The goaltending here, hope Splice is watching, because this was a very well set up Baron.
This was a picture-perfect Baron, the way they pushed him out of the pit to secure the objective. Great play coming out of RNG. Another win on the board, and the Oppo player of the game was the top laner, Longshin. And I want to take this opportunity, perhaps, to reset some of the narrative around RNG and the always Uzi all the time talk. Is it ready? Are we ready to change that up?
like I talked about at the beginning of the day, Uzi applies so much pressure by himself, so they can put more emphasis into him, but they don't have to. And big part of Longxin getting this player of the game is that the Gnar is so important in that team composition. His zoning, choosing the right times to jump in on the back line, making Kale's job so much more difficult, and playing that distance without taking as much damage as you would think.
Final note, takeaways for RNG and their first games before the second week, and Fnatic. Fnatic, we already said, is going to be a rough one because they have to bounce back and win versus some people they haven't been able to win against. But on the other side, RNG is looking more and more confident.
Yeah, absolutely. I think RNG are a legitimate contender because not only is their team fighting good, but their understanding of the map, that Baron setup, the mid lane priority push to break the base. I think they just have more to their bow than previous LPL teams have had at these international tournaments.
And it needs to be a watershed moment for Fnatic. They've come back from bigger disadvantages and got out of groups, but you're going to have to get some comeback victories. It's such a stack group. It's going to be hard.
Such a naysayer. I'm not scared until they're 0-4 spawn. Just kidding. Up next is an interview with Kobe's favorite, Karsa.
Hey guys, Laure here, and joining me right now is Karsa after RNG's victory against Fnatic. Congratulations on taking this one. I'm confused. I was not expecting such a composition from Fnatic. So did you expect it, and how did you plan to play around this?
首先恭喜你们对上 Fnatic 有赢下胜利这样子。那我看到 Fnatic 的阵容，我自己其实非常的震惊。你们有预期他们会选这样的阵容吗？那你们怎么样准备跟这样的阵容对战？
因为主要我们一直看他们前面都玩盖伦加猫咪嘛，然后我觉得他们是应该也是准备了很多类似法师下路的一些套路吧，所以我们其实准备了很多。
So we've seen previously that they played a lot of Garen plus Yuumi, so we understood that they were most likely going to play a lot of mages in the bot lane, so we did a lot of preparation against that.
Right, and you were on point, obviously. Now, I want to talk to you about your top laner, Longxin, because he's often been pointed out as one of the weaknesses sometimes for RNG, but I feel like here, his Gnar initiations were on point. Do you agree? And what did you think about his performance?
想问一下关于你的队友狼行的一个看法，因为他很多时候人家会说他是 RNG 的一个弱点，但是他这场比赛里面的话，他的纳尔开的是非常的漂亮，你可以评价一下他这场的表现吗？
我觉得他世界赛这3场打的都还打得很不错吧，就打出了他以前还没拉 RNG 说他以前是个比较进攻型上单嘛，就我觉得他在这世界赛表现得非常好。
I think all 3 games he played so far, he's done very well on them. It really looks like his previous form when he was playing an aggressive style, not on RNG. So I think he's been doing incredibly well.
I agree, and I hope it continues going for you guys like this. Now, tell me about the last team fight. Uzi flashing in, you defending the Baron. What was it in commentaries and in communications for you guys?
最后想问一下，你们在最后一个大龙团战的话，队内的一些指挥沟通，我们有看到你在坚守大龙，然后有看到就是 Uzi 闪现进去去击杀敌人这样子，你们可以跟我们说一下队内怎么沟通的吗？
主要他们阵容输出其实就一个天使嘛，就